Okay, good evening, everyone. My name is David Cashman from SEB Housing, and this is the lottery for the 2 affordable homeownership units at Sync240 in Medford. I'm going to give you a little bit of background information on how we're going to conduct the lottery, how many people applied, and what to expect moving forward. And then we will go forward and do the drawing, which itself will not take all that long. I expect the drawing of the lottery application numbers will only take, 10 minutes at tops. I'll probably speak for at least that long, just giving you a little bit of background up front. To begin, let me just type a question in the box to the right of where you see me speaking. Obviously, people tuning in aren't able to ask questions verbally, but if anyone has a question or a comment they'd like to make, please feel free to do so, and you can do that in the box where I'm about to type something. So let me just do that now. So let me give you a little bit of background, and then if there are questions, I can take those, and then we'll do the drawing, and then once that's over, I will stick around for a minute in case there are other questions. So if you've gotten this far, congrats on getting this far. Obviously, this is not the end of the road, but it's a good first step, getting yourself into the lottery, getting your application in on time, and providing the answers to the questions that are in the lottery application. As you know, there are 2 units being made available through this lottery. In total, there were 20 applicants who submitted applications by the deadline and who are eligible according to what they put in their lottery application. So there are going to be 20 households in this lottery. Now, the way we do the lottery is all households have their lottery application numbers, right? Those are the numbers that are in the form of A dot blank blank blank. You would have received that when you got your letter of eligibility for the lottery. So those numbers don't dictate where you are on the waiting list or anything. They're just an anonymous identifier to be used in tonight's lottery drawing. If anyone forgot what their lottery application number is, please feel free to let me know your name. You can type it in the box where I've said, please ask questions here, and I will look it up for you. If you know your lottery application number, you don't need to tell me. That's fine. It's probably better off by just keeping it to yourself. But if you've forgotten it, let me know and I'll look it up for you. So there will be 2 drawings, and the reason there's 2 drawings is because there is a local preference for the 2-bedroom affordable unit. So the way we'll do it is there were 4 households who qualified for local preference. I will first draw those 4 households out of the lottery box, which will be underneath my table. You can't see it, but I'll hold the numbers up to the screen as I draw them out. And I will call them by number 2 so you can hear and see. So we'll do that drawing first. That'll be the 4 households who qualified for local preference. Once that's done, I will add those in with the other 16 households. So we'll have all 20 households who are in the lottery, and we'll do that drawing. Okay, so I'll do the same thing where I'll pick them out one by one. I'll hold the lottery application number, which is on a note card about this size, up to the screen so you can see it. Now, I will then, after the lottery is done, and once we conclude the drawing, I will sort the results to create the waiting list, okay? And hopefully that's a concept you're kind of familiar with from having read the informational materials when you were applying. So we will create waiting lists, and those waiting lists will establish an order of priority for how households are going to be able to move forward. Those waiting lists will be ordered top to bottom with households' lottery application numbers. There will be 2 waiting lists. There'll be a waiting list for the 1-bedroom unit. There's 1 of those units. There were 14 applicants for that unit. The order on that waiting list will be decided simply by the order in which households' numbers are picked in the lottery drawing. Because there's no preference attached, there's no household size preference, there's no local preference. So it'll simply be the first household who applied for a 1-bedroom unit whose number is picked will be on the top of that waiting list. There will also be a 2-bedroom unit waiting list. There's 1 of those units and 16 applicants. And the reason there are 14 and 16 for a total of 30, even though there are only 20 applicants in total in the lottery, is because some applicants applied for both, which you can do. That's totally fine. You'll probably have different positions on the waiting list, but households certainly can, and some did apply for both, and that's perfectly fine. So there's 16 applicants who will be on the 2-bedroom waiting list. On that list, the order is not necessarily going to correspond exactly to the order in which households' lottery application numbers were drawn, because we do have to give priority to larger type 2 households as compared to type 1 households. And among type 2 households and among type 1 households, we have to give preference to households who qualified for local preference. So those waiting lists will not be strictly in the order that households' numbers were drawn. Now, when I send you the waiting list in an email tonight, I will also send around some informational materials that will have a lot of this information that I'm reviewing right now. And in there, you will also see exactly how the waiting lists are composed. Okay, so if you're wondering, like, how does a 2-bedroom waiting list kind of, what are the priorities? How does it end up getting put together? How does SEB make this list? I'm going to give you that information so you can see exactly what the priority categories are and how that waiting list gets created. The actual waiting list that I send to you will look like this, okay? So there will be a 1-bedroom on one side and a 2-bedroom on the other, and everyone's lottery application numbers will be on a waiting list that they applied and were eligible for. Now, if your number is in green, then that means that you're going to be invited immediately forward in the next step of this process. You'll see there are 1, 2, 3, 4 numbers highlighted in green on this side, which is the 1-bedroom waiting list, and also 1, 2, 3, 4 households highlighted in green on the 2-bedroom side. Now, you may be saying, now, wait a second, Dave. You've highlighted 4 household numbers in green on both sides. There's only one of each unit. Why would there be 4 households highlighted in green? And the reason for that is because no households have actually had to submit income and asset and tax documentation yet to demonstrate their program eligibility. We essentially took all households based on what they put in their lottery application. But sometimes those things don't always perfectly align. And sometimes households, don't end up being eligible once they have to submit all the income and asset and tax documentation. There's stuff in there that shows that they're not eligible, that they actually make more money than what they disclosed in their lottery application. Or sometimes households just don't submit all the things that are required by the deadline, or they change their mind, or whatever. They're eligible, they begin to move forward, and then they can't get a mortgage commitment, so they can't move forward for that reason. So, moral of the story is not every house, sometimes it's a perfect hit ratio where every household who's invited to move forward ends up buying a unit, but oftentimes it's not. And so we want to make sure that we have buyers who are ready to move forward in the event that a household ahead of them on the waiting list isn't able to. So what that means for you is that if you're the 2nd or the 3rd or the 4th household on a waiting list and you're in green, then you're going to be invited to move forward immediately, and you'll have to produce all of the income and asset and tax documentation. But you're not guaranteed a unit because you'll have to see what happens with the household ahead of you on your waiting list, okay? So even if you're eligible, even if you submit everything by the deadline to us, if the household ahead of you on the waiting list also does that and they end up reserving the unit, then you're going to have to wait and see what happens with that household to see if the unit may become available again or it may not, okay? Now, everyone, when they were submitted, when they were provided with their lottery application number, were also provided with a documents requirements guide. And hopefully you took a look at that and began to prepare the income and asset and tax documentation that's going to be required in this next step, because there is a lot of it. And if you have a file ready, that should be relatively easy. But if you haven't done anything that is going to be a fairly quick turnaround time to provide all of that stuff. So hopefully households have a file ready and they have that documentation, and that next step in the process will be relatively easy. But there will be a deadline. I think it'll be roughly 7 to 10 days. And if you miss that deadline for submitting all of that documentation to us, then unfortunately you may lose your position on the waiting list. So hopefully you've got those things ready, or can get them ready quickly and submit them to us when asked, okay? If you're not in green on the waiting list, then that simply means that you will only be contacted if a unit from your waiting list is still available after all of the households ahead of you have been invited to move forward. It's possible that all households could be invited, all the households in green, which would be 4 on each list, and none of them move forward for one reason or another. It's probably unlikely, but it's possible, so you'll just have to wait and see. But if one of them does move forward, then if you're a household who's not in green, you will not be contacted again, okay? The process of submitting all of the income and asset and tax documentation with us should probably take about 2 weeks to submit a totally complete file and have us review it and approve you. If and when that happens, we then need to send your file to the monitoring agent for a final approval. They have to give the final green light, and that process may take another 1 to 2 weeks. So after tonight, if you're one of the top lottery households, you can expect that if you're eligible and moving forward, you would get that final green light to move forward with the sales team in about 3 to 4 weeks. And at that point, if that does happen for you, then you would begin to engage with the sales team. If you haven't yet, your primary contact has been SEB Housing, but you would begin to engage with the sales team, and they could show you which are the 2 affordable units, or the affordable unit from the list that you're being invited from, more specifically. You'd sign the reservation for the unit with the sales team. You'd put down your $500 deposit, set a date for signing the purchase and sale agreement. In the purchase and sale agreement, you'll set a contingency date for getting a mortgage commitment from a bank and a date for closing. And we'll give very specific and detailed instructions when that, for any households who get to that stage and moving forward in the home buying process. So don't worry, we will provide further instruction, including at that point that you may want to get an attorney to help you review all of the documents that will be part of purchasing a unit, and just making sure that you understand everything and that your rights are represented. So anyway, that's a little bit further down the road, but that's kind of how this process will play out. The final thing I want to say before I do the actual lottery drawing is you have to maintain program eligibility all the way up through closing, okay? So when you provide all of the income and asset and tax documentation to SEB, you're demonstrating with the documents that you're program eligible. A couple months down the line, or however long it takes, when you're one of the top households who's in the home buying process and you now get your mortgage commitment, you will likely have to update your file a little bit to demonstrate that you continue to be program eligible. Okay, you have to be program eligible now when you're invited to move forward, and you still have to be program eligible in a month from now, or 2 months from now, or 3 months from now, up through your closing. So there will likely need to be an update of your file, which will include items such as updating your bank statements and updating more recent pay stubs, right? Because we need the most recent versions of those things. And in 1 or 2 or 3 months, what we have on file now will become outdated. Okay, so you want to keep a record of that stuff, keep updating your file, so that if and when you have to do a second review, you'll have all of that stuff ready. Okay, it won't be absolutely everything, your taxes from last year, you don't have to necessarily update those, but things like bank statements and pay stubs, they do get updated, weekly or bi-weekly, and so you want to keep a file of those things so that you can update it if you are one of the households who gets to move forward in purchasing one of these units. Okay, so I think I've kind of given the outline that I want to give. If there are any questions, please ask them now, or If you think of it later, I'll stick around for a sec after we do the drawing, but I've said my piece, so I'm going to move forward now and do the actual drawings. And like I said, these don't take too long. These don't take too long at all. So we're going to start by doing the local preference drawing. As I think I said before, there were 4 households who indicated that they qualified for local preference. So I'm going to draw those 4 numbers first out of the lottery box. My box is kind of down out of the screen. I'll shake it up where you can see it, and then I'll start picking the numbers. I will hold them up as I go. Okay, so here we go. Got our 4 numbers in the box. Shake that up. All right. First number drawn is A.003. A.003. Next number is A.011. A.011. Next number is A.006. A.006. And the fourth and last local preference number is A.010. A.010. All right, so that was it for the local preference drawing. Pretty quick, I know. I'm going to add those 4 numbers in with the general numbers. So this will now be all 20 households who qualified for the lottery. I've already shuffled these numbers up some. I'm going to just kind of shuffle them up here for a second. Then I'll put them in the box. I'll shake it up, and I will do the drawing. Okay. First number is A.002. A.002. Next is A.014. A.005. Next number is A.010. Next number is A.006. A.006. Next number is A.003. A.003. Next number is A.012. A.012. Next number is A.013. A.013. Next number, A.015. A.015. Next number is A.008. A.008. followed by A.001, A.001. And the next number is A.017, A.017. Sarah, I see your question, and let me just finish doing this, and then I will answer it. Next number, A.019, A.019. Next is A.011, A.011. Next is A.020, A.020. Next up is A.004, A.004. Okay, there are 4 numbers left to pick. A.009, A.009. Next up is A.018, A.018. And 2 numbers left here. A.007. And the final number is A.016, A.016. Okay, so that was it. Pretty quick, like I said. The drawing itself does not take all that long. So let me see, Sarah's question. Is this for 1 or 2 bed? Right, so it's, those are every household, Sarah, that was in the lottery. So some of them applied for 1 bed, some of them applied for 2 bed, and some of them applied for both. And so what that means is that I now have to sort, like I think you're kind of suggesting you're aware of, I have to sort the results to create the waiting list. And so when I do that, you know, I'll kind of start by segmenting just the households who applied for the 1 bedroom, and then I will put those households on the waiting list according to the order in which they were drawn in the lottery. And then I will go through and just narrow it down to just households who applied for the 2 bedroom. And then I will create the waiting list according to A, the order in which they were drawn, B, are they a type 2 or type 1 household, and C, do they have local preference? So in this particular moment, I have no idea where anyone is on a waiting list because I don't know who applied for what. I don't know, you know, if a household is a type 2, type 1. I don't know if they have local preference off the top of my head, so I have to sort those. But the good news is that I will send you those waiting lists in a matter of, I hope, the next 30 to 45 minutes. So just check your inbox. You will get this document, which currently is blank because I haven't actually done the sorting to create it, but this is what it's going to look like, just like this. And it will have everyone's lottery application number on it. It will be ordered top to bottom, top being the number 1 all the way down through the last household on the list. And like I said, if you're in green, you will be contacted by us within the next probably 24 hours with an invitation to submit all the income and asset and tax documentation that needs to be supplied. And if you're not in green, you will only be contacted if there are units still available after the households who are in green have had an opportunity to apply. And so you'd only be contacted if none of them end up being able to purchase the unit. Any other questions? I'm happy to stick around for a minute and take them. If not, that's okay. You don't have to have questions. You know where to sort of contact us if questions come up. Here's a question. Hi, how often is the website updated? Hometown Estates, there are still units available, so you could apply for that. Absolutely. So we don't have a set schedule like every week or every 4 days or something like that where we update it. We try and update it so that it's always current. Occasionally we're a little bit late. Something's progressed from one stage to another. You know, it may be a little delayed in terms of updating it, but yes, there are units still available at Hometown Estates. If you are not going to be moving forward here, you could absolutely apply there. In that case, the lottery's already come and gone, so you just submit an application. It's first come, first served. Any other questions? All right. Well, thanks everyone for tuning in. Like I said, I'll sort those results and try and get them to you as quickly as I can to sort of dissipate any suspense. You'll know exactly where you are on the waiting list. When I do send those waiting lists, I'll send around some further instructions and just information. I know I covered a number of things before I did the actual drawing. I didn't expect you to sort of write all that down or memorize it, but it's all contained in a handout that I will send to you, just if you're kind of curious about, you know, how many households applied and how the waiting lists get created and how many households are on each waiting list, etc. So hopefully you'll find that useful. If this process doesn't end up working out for you, I know that's unfortunate. I know it takes time and effort, but there are other affordable housing opportunities. And hopefully, if you know this one doesn't work out, there is another one that will work out for you. And we wish you the best of luck with that. So on that note, thanks everyone, and have a great night.